Picture this. You are sitting behind the wheel. The night is quiet. Your hands are at 10 and 2. You have done absolutely nothing wrong. Then the red and blue lights erupt in your rearview mirror. Your heart rate spikes. Your palms go damp. You pull over because you are a law-abiding citizen. And that is what you do. The officer reaches your window, shines the light straight into your eyes, and says 4 words that sound like nothing. 4 words that sound like polite conversation. 4 words that, if you answer the wrong way, can put you in handcuffs before you ever reach home. Those 4 words are, where are you coming from? Most people answer. Most people think they have to answer. Most people are completely wrong. And by the end of this video, you will know exactly what to say instead, why the law is entirely on your side, and the one sentence that changes the entire dynamic of that stop in your favor. Welcome back. This channel exists for one reason only, to make sure you know your rights before you ever need them. Today we are talking about one of the most commonly misunderstood moments in any traffic stop, that casual sounding question officers are trained to ask, and why your instinct to answer it honestly is the very thing that gets people into serious legal trouble. This is not legal advice. Every situation is different, and if you are ever facing criminal charges, you need a licensed attorney in your state. But what you're about to learn is constitutional. It is documented, and it is something every driver in this country deserves to know. Why? That question is never just small talk. When an officer asks where you are coming from, they are not making conversation. That question is a trained interrogation opener used during what law enforcement calls the contact phase of a traffic stop. It is designed to do one specific thing: get you talking. Once you are talking, the officer is no longer just checking your license and registration. They are now building a profile. They are watching your eyes, your hands, the speed of your speech, whether you hesitate, whether you look away, and whether your story is going to contradict itself in the next 2 minutes. Think about what each answer actually gives them. You say you are coming from a bar or a restaurant. The officer now has a documented reason to look for signs of intoxication. That goes into the written report before you even hand over your license. You say you are coming from a friend's house. Now the questions multiply. Which friend? Were you drinking? How long were you there? A single answer just opened a line of questioning that did not exist 5 seconds ago. You say you just came from work. Sounds completely innocent. But now the officer knows your route. He knows where you started and where you are supposed to be heading. If anything about your location does not perfectly match that route, that detail becomes suspicious in his report. Every answer you give hands the officer a new thread to pull. That is the architecture of the question. It is not a question at all. It is a door. And the moment you open it, the investigation walks right through. What the Constitution actually says about this. Here is the part that most people have never been told. You have absolutely no legal obligation to answer that question. Not in any state, not under any traffic law. The only documents you are legally required to provide during a standard traffic stop are your driver's license, your vehicle registration, and your proof of insurance. That is where your mandatory cooperation ends. The Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution protects every citizen from being compelled to be a witness against themselves. That protection does not disappear when you are sitting in a car on the side of the road. It applies there too. The Supreme Court addressed the foundation of this in Terry versus Ohio, decided in 1968. That ruling established that while officers may briefly detain a person and ask questions during a lawful stop, a person is not required to answer those questions. Silence and a calm refusal to answer are both protected. In Hebel versus 6th Judicial District Court of Nevada, decided in 2004, the court clarified the limits of what states can require during a stop. In states with stop and identify statutes, you may be required to state your name. But even under those statutes, nothing requires you to explain where you have been or where you are going. Courts have also been consistent on another critical point. Exercising a constitutional right cannot be treated as evidence of wrongdoing. An officer cannot legally arrest you, hold you longer than the stop requires, or search your vehicle simply because you declined to answer a question you were never required to answer. Your refusal is a not probable cause. It never has been. The trap most drivers fall into. There are three ways most people respond to that question, and all three of them create problems when you do not know what you are doing. The first is honesty. You tell the officer exactly where you were. If that answer involves any location where alcohol is present, any social gathering, or any activity that could be painted as impairment related, you have just written the first paragraph of the case against yourself. Being honest is not the same as being safe. The second is lying. Some people think they can outsmart the situation by naming a neutral location. But if the officer has any reason to doubt your answer, making a false statement to a law enforcement officer can carry its own legal consequences. You have now created a separate problem on top of whatever the stop was originally about. The third is silence. Just staring at the officer without saying anything. Officers are trained to document that as uncooperative or unusual behavior, and some will write it in their report as a behavioral indicator of impairment. Saying nothing in that frozen, uncomfortable way is not the same as asserting your right. It just looks strange and gives the officer something to work with. None of these three options serves you. That is exactly why knowing the right words matters so much. The exact words to say. This is what you say. Memorize this. Practice it out loud until it feels completely natural coming out of your mouth. Officer, I would prefer not to answer questions about where I have been. Am I free to go or am I being detained? That is it. Those two sentences do more legal work than anything else you could say at that window. Here is why every part of it works. Saying I would prefer not to answer is polite and calm. You are not being hostile. You are not raising your voice. You are exercising a constitutional right in the most professional way possible. The word prefer signals a personal choice rather than a confrontation, which means the officer has no legitimate basis to characterize you as uncooperative in his report. Saying questions about where I have been is precise. You are not refusing all communication. You are drawing a specific boundary around one topic. This shows you are reasonable and composed, which works in your favor in any legal proceeding that follows. Then asking, am I free to go or am I being detained, forces the officer to legally commit to one of two positions. If he says you are free to go, you leave. If he says you are being detained, he now has to have a lawful justification for that detention. And that justification becomes the foundation of anything that follows. You have just shifted the legal burden entirely onto him. If the officer pushes back, some officers will push back. They may say something like, "It is just a simple question. If you have nothing to hide, just tell me where you were." This is a pressure technique. It works because most people instinctively want to appear cooperative and non-suspicious. Here is your follow-up line. Officer, I have provided my license and insurance. I am exercising my constitutional right. That is not evidence of anything. That statement is legally accurate. Courts across the country have upheld that invoking your constitutional rights cannot be construed as guilt or reasonable suspicion. If the officer then instructs you to step out of the vehicle, you comply. Under Pennsylvania v. Mims, decided in 1977, officers may lawfully order a driver out of the car during a traffic stop without needing additional justification. You step out calmly and without argument. But stepping out of the car does not mean you start answering questions. Once you are outside, the same principles apply. If they ask to search your vehicle, you say clearly and calmly, "I do not consent to any searches." If the questioning continues, you say, "I would like to speak with an attorney before answering any further questions." Then you stay calm, stay quiet, and let your attorney handle everything that comes next. Why this knowledge matters long after the stop. Understanding this goes far beyond one late-night traffic stop. The same dynamic plays out whenever any authority figure approaches you and starts asking questions that sound casual but are actually designed to gather information to use against you. Security personnel in retail settings, code enforcement officers, even certain workplace investigations, The principle is the same every single time. You are not required to self-incriminate. Being cooperative does not mean waiving your rights, and the words you choose in the first 30 seconds of any encounter can shape every legal moment that follows. People do not typically get into serious legal trouble because of what they did. They get into trouble because of what they said when they thought they were simply being friendly and helpful. Knowing your rights is not about being difficult or having something to hide. It is about being prepared. It is about understanding that the same Constitution that grants law enforcement its authority also protects you during every single encounter with it. So the next time those lights flash in your mirror and an officer asks where you have been, you will not panic. You will not ramble. You will not say something that opens a door you can never close again. You will say, "Officer, I would prefer not to answer questions about where I have been. Am I free to go or am I being detained?" And that is how you protect yourself. If this video helped you, hit that like button right now and subscribe so you never miss another update on your rights. Drop a comment below telling me what traffic stop situation you want me to cover next. And share this with someone you care about who drives, because one day this information might matter more than either of you expects. Stay informed, stay protected. See you in the next one.